Hello and welcome to part 2 of my series The Curse of Melanie's Grave, where I'm talking about my new thriller Melanie's Grave, which is being released this September. In this episode I want to celebrate the cast of the film, so here in no particular order are the cast and characters of Melanie's Grave. So the main character in the film is called Mel, who's played by the very talented and award-winning Rachel Meredith. So Mel is this vulnerable autistic woman who hides this dark past, which is reawakened when her home is invaded by an armed robber. So Rachel wasn't actually the first actor to play Mel. The previous actor was fired 5 days into the shoot and we had to hastily replace her with Rachel, who did an amazing job and for my money elevated the film with her outstanding performances.
Is that your car outside?
Oh yeah, it's new. Well, one careful owner, but yeah, I got it Tuesday.
Why did you change it? I like the other one. How am I supposed to recognise you when you arrive?
Sorry, I should have mentioned it on the phone, but you'll get used to it.
I like the other one.
Well, people change cars all the time. People change lots of things all the time.
People should make up their minds.
So Mel is very literal and quite pedantic about certain things. She's also got a touch of OCD and has to repeat certain functions 3 times, which often perplexes other people around her. Rachel had previously worked with adults with autism, so she had a great insight into behavioural patterns and had free rein to bring her character to life. So Mel's character is quite complex. Not only does she have autism, but her behaviour is massively shaped by abuse she suffered at the hands of her father, who had no patience for her and as such has turned her into something who will protect herself at all costs. She's learned to fight back, and boy does she fight back against all comers. Next we have James Trenham, who plays armed getaway driver Rob, who is forced to hide out in Mel's house after a bungled robbery while he waits for an accomplice to come and pick him up. Now he's been shot in the leg, so literally can't walk out of there. Now James was another actor who replaced the original actor after he left the film 5 days into the shoot, after I'd fired the lead actress who was a friend of his. Now James turned out to be a much better actor than his predecessor, and as it turned out already knew Rachel, who was playing the lead.
You believe me, don't you? Sam?
Where are you?
I'm holed up in some woman's house. The cops are all over the estate, I had nowhere else to go. I'm stuck here.
What's your address? I'll pick you up.
So that familiarity helped enormously with their scenes, although there were some awkward moments in one scene.
Scene 97, shot 1, take 1.
I'm sorry, but my ass is freezing.
No, cut.
Oh, sorry.
On the last day of shooting, James never turned up on set and several of the crew, including myself, had to go hunting for him. It took 4 hours to track him down, and our behind the scenes camera guy caught it all on video, and I'll be showing some of that in a different episode, so keep tuning in. So Zoe is Mel's social worker, who's played by Susan Wiseman, who is helping Mel get her life back together after some horrific events in her past. Although Zoe is filled with good intentions, she is often perplexed by Mel's habits and rituals, and we get the feeling she'd much rather be somewhere else. Although Mel likes Zoe, she becomes her adversary when Zoe stumbles into something she wasn't meant to say, and when Zoe threatens to call the police, Mel reacts in the only way she knows how.
What are you doing?
Give me the phone.
Look, Mel, what are you doing? This is one of your films. You've been through an ordeal. You'll be alright. Just need to put the gun down.
This leads to a cat and mouse chase in the woods where there's accidents, fighting, blood, and somehow getting lost. So Susan had to have corrective surgery to her face during the shooting of this film. So some pickup shots of her character had to be done by another actor who was already working on the film. And then she got hit in the face during a fight scene and we had to stop the filming. Lucy Purdy Proudfoot plays the younger version of Mel in a series of flashback scenes. This was Lucy's first and only film to date, and despite having very little dialogue and very little acting experience, she did an amazing job.
Go away! Please!
Lucy was 13 when she was cast in the film, but 14 by the time we shot it, and had no previous acting experience. She was spotted at a local fairground with her mother and approached by our production assistant, who thought she looked like the previous actor who played Mel. And when that lead actress was sacked, Lucy was extremely upset because she thought that that was the end of the road for the film, but obviously it wasn't. Because Lucy played the younger version of Mel, who was abused by her father, she had to do some very sensitive scenes, which we spoke about in great detail beforehand to assure her how we would physically shoot those scenes, and she gave a brilliant performance throughout. So we have two police detectives in the film who pay Mel a visit. The first is Jed Purvis, who plays Detective Inspector Lawson, leading the investigation into the disappearance of one of our characters. His inquiries have led him to Mel, who was the last person to see this particular character. Little does he know what has gone on in that house.
In the early hours of this morning, a fire crew attended a burning car just on the entrance road to the woods. So I'm going to ask you again, Miss Meadows, have you ever been to Penshire Woods?
Jed chose to wear this overcoat because he thought it made him look more like a detective. I thought it would be too noisy for sound because it makes this rubbing noise as you're walking along, but it turned out fine and I quite like the look actually. So DS Walls is another detective who is played by Helen Coverdale, who is partnered with D.I. Lawson. Both of these actors playing the detectives shot all of their scenes in one single day, so the pair weren't on set very much, to be honest.
Ah, no thanks. We won't be long. Sit down, Miss Meadows.
Helen wasn't originally playing DS Walls. I actually cast Rachel, who plays Mel, but when I recast Rachel as Mel, I then had to recast DS Walls, and that's how Helen got the part. So Mel's mother is portrayed by Melanie Dagg, who is a put-upon wife who turns a blind eye to the abuse her husband is inflicting on their daughter. So she is as much to blame for Mel's abuse as her husband, really.
Melanie, will you stop doing that?
So Melanie previously played my wife in another film before she played my wife in Melanie's Grave. And this was the third time that we worked together, I believe. Although I don't see myself as an actor, I do have a part in the film and I play Mel's abusive father. I'm not really an actor, but I've dabbled and I've had a few small roles. But I do hope that I did all right in this dark and cruel role. Leave it!
Right, kid.
So the original actor in the film had to be replaced 2 days before we shot these scenes because of personal problems. So unable to recast at the time, I stepped into the breach and I never really looked at any of my lines until I was actually on set about to shoot those scenes, which obviously is apparent when you look at these outtakes. This is my rules. Shit. We're going to break those rules. Don't you dare go in that house. So up next is Mike Carr, who played the post office robber Sam, who comes to pick up fellow post office robber Rob, who has been hiding out in Mel's house. Now his scenes are very limited and he only appears twice in the whole film, but he has a very imposing presence and I thought he played a very convincing villain.
He gave me this address yesterday to pick him up. I've been calling his phone all night, he's not answering.
Don't know who you mean. The police were just here.
Yeah, they've gone now.
So Mike shot all his scenes in one day and he never really met any of the other cast members except for Rachel, our lead, who he plays opposite in both his scenes. Now last but by no means least is Holly Matthews, who plays a character on a TV show that our main character is watching. So her character name is simply Girl on TV. Now in the original edit I used two of my old short films that were visible on the screen that Mel was watching, but I decided later to swap that out with some original footage. So that's where Holly comes in. So Holly is the most well-known of the entire cast, and yet she has the smallest amount of screen time.
Because I was ashamed of you. Because I didn't want people coming round to my house and seeing you. I didn't want people knowing what a total mess my mother was.
So Holly was brought in to do those two small scenes 2 years after principal photography, and we shot it all in 5 takes in under an hour. So Holly is known for her bigger roles in Biker Grove and Waterloo Road, but has had smaller parts in the likes of Casualty and The Bill and many other TV dramas. She also had a UK top 40 single with Little Miss Perfect under the name Summer Matthews, but is now a self-help guru and doing pretty well for herself, and has appeared on shows like the Lorraine programme. So that is the entire cast of the film, bar a few extras who I'll be talking about in another episode. So that's it for this episode. So if you want to hear more about Melanie's Grave, please like, share, follow, subscribe, and stay tuned for the big juicy stories that you don't want to miss, which I'll be talking about in up and coming videos in this series.